Hello and welcome back to the Folklore Hiking Stick Workshop. I'm back in the UK after being away for the best part of 2 weeks or just over, and I closed the workshop down a week before I went and got my last stuff away to customers. I've got some wood burning to do on 4 sticks there and get some finishing products on. I'm going to get that done, get those drying, and after that, well, before that actually, I'm going to do an epoxy fill on what was a crack. You can see if that there, I've routed out the crack and given me a nice clean channel to do an epoxy pour in it. The crack doesn't run through the whole of the top of the stick. And as you can see, I've got a generous portion of wood there still to work with, giving strength. And yeah, so by doing an epoxy fill, it will give it more strength where that crack was, and it'll add just a little bit of a feature. But to do a fill of epoxy when you've got curves and holes and things, obviously, which interrupt the filling process, you have to do some bridging and damming off so that the epoxy just doesn't run straight to the floor. I'll show you very quickly a little bit of that. It's nothing that you possibly wouldn't think of or work out yourself, but it's like everything. If you've never done any epoxy filling, you've never done it, so you kind of don't know that, or you may start it and forget to realize epoxy, being a liquid, will run and run with gravity, so you could end up with a big mess on the floor. All I'm doing is damming it off and restricting the flow of the epoxy as I do the fill. So I'll quickly show you that, and I'll do both sides, and then I'll put it away to dry for 24 hours. So all I'm going to show you is me damming it off, filling it with epoxy and filling the other side, getting it to a point I can leave it to dry overnight, and then sand it. This whole stick does need a complete finishing sand. I've done a rough sand on it, and I haven't routed out the lanyard holes, quite simply because there will be epoxy I will need to get the router to smooth out and create the actual desired effect. So from this, we're going to start taping up, and yeah, let's crack on so I can actually get on with my other sticks. Right, so the first job for me is basically cleaning out that channel. I've got some loose stuff in there. Just want to get that out so the epoxy has a good chance to bond. So I've just got a plastic wire brush. When I say wire brush, it's just a plastic, almost like a toothbrush. I don't mind leaving some of the furred stuff inside there, because that'll obviously aid with the bonding as well. But I want all the loose stuff out. And there we go. I think I'm done there. Right then, my first problem is the lanyard hole and the fact the channel runs into it. So if I fill the channel, it's going to drip straight down through that particular lanyard hole. So I've got to plug it. So all I'm going to do is get a piece of paper. I'm going to roll it up. And I'm guessing people who used to smoke roll up cigarettes in the day may be expert at this. And I've created a cardboard tube. I'm going to insert it into the hole, pretty much like what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to wiggle it around, and I'm going to actually expand the actual tube in the hole. I'm going to let it open up. If you look there, you will see that tube is butted up against the actual channel, the walls of the channel, and that'll give me a chance to allow the resin to stay there and not flow down the sides. I will get overspill. I haven't done this 100% professional, but that'll be enough to do what I want to do. I've now got to concern myself with the round part here. If I was to fill this channel, it's just going to run all the way down there. So I've got to cover that over and bring it up around, and I'll show you. So if I get this one here like that, get a piece of tape, and I'm using low tack masking tape. All I'm going to do is place this like a band-aid like this over, and what I'm doing is I'm folding it around just to give me a bridge. Taking it around like that. Right, you can see what I've done there, and from here you can see I've covered the front of the split, or where I've routed out, and I've left a piece where the resin can run right the way down through. I haven't stuffed the paper into the actual crack. All this will be sanded back and brought back flush, but at least the less work I make now for myself later on, the better. Now I've done that, I want to create a kind of dam all the way around here so I don't get too much overspill. So I'm going to do that now. Right. Yet again, piece of paper here. Just bringing it around here. I need another little bit here. So what you'll see there is, even though I've stuck the tape down, I've left just a little millimetre of a flap upwards to allow the resin just to overflow over the top, only slightly. Yet again, I'm trying not to waste resin, but I'm now going to repeat the process on the back end and down the other side. So if you have a look here, you can actually see what I mean I've done with the masking tape. It's not actually tacked right down. The lip is flared upwards. I'm not aiming to fill that whole channel above the mark, but that actual flared bit there gives me the opportunity to come past the line of the actual routed out piece of wood and just let it overflow gently. And you can see how I've done it at the front there as well, and on both sides here. A little bit more there, but like I said, that's just to give me the chance just to create a little bit more of an overflow so it becomes 100% level. So I've got the dam, and now it's about time now to start thinking about doing this pour. Right, let's get this level. Obviously being level is critical, so you don't get overflow more one side than the other. That's about it. All I'm doing is using a bit of masking tape just to guarantee there's no movement. Just adjust it a bit more. That's about it. Happy with that. Right, let's mix up the epoxy and start the pour. let's open this up. Oh. It's a 2-part epoxy, and I'm reasonably happy with the brand. I've used it before, and in these circumstances, bust the lip off the actual container, making sure my mixing pots are actually clean. There. A little bit of blue in this one. Alright. And add the epoxy. There. And mix them up thoroughly. Right. So all I'm doing now is I'm just going to gently dribble the actual epoxy mix into the actual routed out crack, and from there I'm going to try to not create air bubbles. I'm going to make sure there's a clear flow in, and I'm just going to work it into the gaps. Not too much, you do not want to force air into it. Right, you can definitely see the difference between the green and the orange coloured epoxy. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to let it set and go off. Then I'll remove the masking tape. I do have a few air bubbles there, but I think they will sand out when I sand all the actual wood down. I was using the hairdryer. That sometimes will allow the bubbles to rise to the top and basically dissipate and give you a smoother, cleaner finish. But those bubbles are near enough at the surface, so when I sand that handle, they'll disappear. But obviously, I was very careful not to get any of it too hot, because well, epoxy creates heat, and it is combustible, and that hot air gun produces a lot of heat. So all I was doing, just wafting a gentle bit of air over the top, just to help release any bubbles and surface tension in the epoxy. But I'll let that go off, then we'll remove it and we'll see what we've got. Right, this is what I've got. So let's actually take this off. It obviously needs more time to dry, but it's gone off long enough for me to be able to take off all the masking tape, just to have a little pre-look. So let's take it all off. Right then, I've just taken off the masking tape as much as I can. Some of it's stuck. I'm going to have to wait till it goes totally rock hard and sand it. Obviously, I'm going to drill out and router out that bit of cardboard there when I do the finishing. And this will sand up really nice. And you can see the differences in colours there quite easily. And you can see how the overspill has ran either side to where I've left that flare on the masking tape. So I have a nice bit of resin there flush to the actual walls of the wood. It will all be sanded back to the point where it marries, and you can see it's flown right down around into the handle there. It will all sand out. So I'm going to let this dry for 24 hours, and then for me it will be sanding this and finishing the stick. But I'm about to go start doing some wood burning now. So an epoxy fill is a legitimate well, crafting technique on hiking sticks if you have cracks or blemishes that you want to fill out. They do reinstate some integral strength, but I personally would never use epoxy to fill a stick that is going to require heavy load bearing, or sticks in areas that are going to have heavy load bearing. I possibly wouldn't do it, you know, for that. But as you can see, for this handle, it's worked out extremely well, and it will add a decorative touch, so I'm quite happy with that. And yeah, an epoxy fill does add something special. So while I haven't shown you me sanding it out, this was just an introduction. If you're thinking about doing an epoxy fill and you have some difficult areas that you want to work, I was just demonstrating that you can use tape and well, cardboard to mask off and bridge gaps or fill gaps to allow you to get your epoxy where you actually want it. So I'm going to put this back in the rack and I'm going to start wood burning. So all that's left to be said is take care, stay safe, and hope to catch you guys on the trail.